Sit down if you want to.
Right in the middle of what's going on.
I'm in the middle of an interrogation.
Take a seat, young Skywalker.
The middle children of history, man.
Middle of the day, Alfred?
Please, take a seat there.
Right now, I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Stop the middle, it's a base hit!
Meeting in the middle.
Like.
They fought for the freedom of middle.
The middle of a war!
In the
middle of a war! This is freaking ridiculous!
Why don't we have a seat and talk it over?
No! Not the middle seat!
Speeding into your bedroom, your bathroom, your kitchen, your car, wherever you may be. It's the Middle Seats podcast presented by Olive Garden. I'm your race leader, Andrew Auger. Let's meet the other contestants in this movie marathon. That'll make more sense later. He'll always be first place, and he leaves a blue streak across my heart, Mr. Nate Longarini.
Like black and blue streak? I don't think blue is necessarily a good thing to leave on your heart there, Drew.
Well, like blood before it becomes oxygenized is blue. So it means my heart's working well, I guess?
No, blood is always red, man. That's an urban legend.
Is it really?
It's never blue. Yeah.
Huh. Science facts you learn on the Middle Seats podcast as well.
Yeah, we're 30 seconds in, and I'm wondering where Andrew's going with all this.
Speaking of speed puns, you can skip through the parts where he talks. It'll make your experience even quicker with us,
there
Mr. Jay Kensler.
You know what? I thought it was pretty bold of you to say the race leader with two Marist track and field guys. That was a little bold of you, but whatever.
I even went for a run today.
I looked outside. It's pretty close, right? The Middle Seats podcast is the best seat in the house for all things movies and entertainment. On this podcast, we are going to be talking about Sonic the Hedgehog. This is part of a whole. So if you're looking for the full pizza pie, as opposed to just this little slice, look for the other part of the episode on the YouTube channel that you are visiting right now.
Why didn't you continue with the Olive Garden pun? Why'd you switch to pizza?
Damn it, you're right.
Yeah.
You know what? No regrets. Not even one. Let's move into our main review of Sonic the Hedgehog.
I'm Sonic, a little ball of super energy in an extremely handsome package. I am living my best life on Earth. Super Sonic.
Why are you hiding out in my garage?
They're coming for me. If they steal my power, they could conquer the universe. You have to help me.
I'm going to give you 5 seconds to tell me where it is.
Wait, don't hurt him.
That was an illegal left, by the way.
Aw, this one is cute. Let's keep him. Oh, come on! Let's go!
Sonic the Hedgehog is directed by first-time director Jeff Fowler. It stars Ben Schwartz as the titular Hedgehog, Sonic. James Marsden, Jim Carrey, plays Dr. Robotnik. Tika Sumpter, Neil McDonough, and then a couple of other people that are not that important. It's based on the global blockbuster video game franchise from Sega. Of course, Sonic the Hedgehog, he is the speediest alien hedgehog in the galaxy. He has to run from his home planet. He makes it on his way to Earth, and he posts up in a small town in Montana. He just thinks that's the best place in the world. So he kind of stalks from a distance until one day he goes for an angsty run and he gets on the government's radar. And from there, Dr. Robotnik is tracking him down and he has to team up with the sheriff, his best friend Tom, aka Donut Lord, aka played by James Marsden, on a wild adventure to go find it doesn't matter. We'll get to it in a second. This movie...
Very relatable. We've all had experiences like this.
I think there's a universe where this movie, we've never talked about it before on this podcast, but we have talked about it because the first trailer came out. It was originally slated to come out in November of 2019. They were gearing up for that. They released the first trailer, and Sonic straight up doesn't look like Sonic. He looks like... what's the best way? Really quick, what's the best way you would describe old Sonic?
Blue demon.
Unnatural.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That flowed with a lot of hatred on it, Jake. I like that. He looked more like a dog than a hedgehog.
Look up YouTube comments. You'll get it.
Yeah, right, exactly. I'm not clever enough to come up with one of those. But basically, if I were to just, visualize and describe him, he looked like he had 2 small hands. His eyes were, very humanoid. And he had teeth. He had, legitimate, not cartoon teeth.
Like Bruce from Finding Nemo. Get that out of here.
Like the shark from Finding Nemo. Exactly like that. So, I don't know any other way to put it. The internet cyberbullied Paramount and the director.
Outrageous.
Yeah, and basically got them to change Sonic's design. And he looks way better now. We can get into the ethics of having visual effect artists basically give up their holidays to fix this. But they did indeed fix it. He looks better. But how is the movie? Was the movie worth all the trouble? I think a lot of us anticipated no. But then the box office results came in, and the reviews have actually been leaning slightly positive. Not, like, overwhelmingly, but it's fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, is it still?
Yeah, it's 63-ish, which, I mean,
wow.
It's a moral victory more than anything. Because, I mean, Metacritic is not great. The people that dislike it really dislike it. And I'm interested to see where you guys land. Let's start with Nate Lungarini. What did you think of Sonic the Hedgehog?
So this is obviously going to draw a lot of comparisons, at least for me, to Detective Pikachu, because it's another beloved video game character getting a movie. I think between the two, I like Detective Pikachu more, but that isn't high praise because I thought Detective Pikachu was pretty middling. I'm about the same here. It had some charm to it, I guess, but it wasn't nearly as creative in its world building, in its jokes, compared to other kids' movies of the same caliber, even other video game movies. I liked the main guy. What was his name?
James Marsden.
The sheriff, Sheriff Tom. It was fun enough. Sonic was like the perfect mix between annoying and sincere, just like some of his video game appearances. But I think the only thing that I, across the board, enjoyed all the way through was Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik. I thought he was fun, at the very least. But the rest of the movie didn't live up to that level.
Level. That was good. Did you mean that or no?
Absolutely. Totally.
You didn't mean that. I know you.
No. Not a chance.
No chance. Jake, what did you think of Sonic?
I'll be honest, I had a real issue with the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, Sega decided they wanted a Marvel intro with their first movie, and I was like, get that shit out of here. You need to earn that. Yeah, pause. You don't get to do a cutaway intro with all your video games and then have a red background and a Sega original film. Yeah. No, stop it.
Hey, look, there's like, Sonic and everything else. Cool.
The other things that they do. Yeah.
Right.
I was like, if this is the way the movie's going, I am in some serious trouble. And then the actual parts of the movie, the intro was like very rushed and very generic, like, pause, you're probably wondering why I'm running away from this laser beam. Let's cut back. Like some major Deadpool energy, but not as good as Deadpool.
Not even close, yeah.
Deadpool for kids is how I thought of it for most of it.
Yeah, like motor mouth, pausing, going back and forth with cuts for like once from the intro. But overall, I thought it was all right. I was expecting less. I didn't think it was like great. Like Nate said, it's middling. There are Detective Pikachu comparisons because I didn't think it was a bad movie. It was like entertaining enough. Thank God it's under an hour 40 because I think that's just about as long as I was willing to sit. But I like Ben Schwartz as Sonic. I thought he was a good choice. I like Jim Carrey. I thought James Marsden was good enough. I think he could have been worse. He doesn't need to do a whole lot though, so I'm glad he wasn't bad because then that would have just been lazy.
He's the chauffeur for most of the movie, literally.
Yeah, like he doesn't have that much to do. There's certainly some generic and cheesy roll your eyes stuff. There's definitely some plot issues, but as a whole, it's generally pretty fun. There were a couple laughs, and it's a decent kids movie. It's not anything great, but it's better than I expected.
I think kids are really going to love this. I think they already are.
Yeah, that's what I was getting.
I think kids will really love it, and I think adults will tolerate it. I mostly didn't care for this. I thought it was fine. I kind of echo what a lot of the things you guys are saying. Like, I think Ben Schwartz does a really nice job. He somehow makes Sonic likable, because Sonic is kind of a dick. Like, let's be completely honest. He's always been that, like, cool dude with attitude, who, like, eats chili dogs and, like, hangs out with his friends and beats up the old scientist that's coming to harvest his organs.
He would be a frat bro.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But, yeah.
And that's pretty much who Ben Schwartz was as John Ralphio on Parks and Rec, so it's a good choice.
The difference is John Ralphio doesn't have entire movies surrounding him, you know?
Yeah, John Ralphio's the worst. But on purpose, like he's supposed to be. But every time he shows up in Parks and Rec, I don't even think he's funny. I'm like, just please go away. But that's the point, you know? Like,
I love him.
This is Jim Carrey unleashed for the first time since probably the early 90s, maybe late 90s, we'll say. But this is like Sonic the Hedgehog wouldn't be out of place next to Liar Liar or Dumb and Dumber or Ace Ventura. As far as manic Jim Carrey performances, he's just completely unleashed. He's having the time of his life.
He's doing whatever he wants again. Yeah. He's being Jim Carrey.
There's moments where he's just like, it feels like he ad-libbed something about like not wanting to be a best man in a wedding, at a destination wedding, and it has nothing to do with anything else.
But you still get it. You kind of get what he means.
Right, but it's funny. Like,
Yeah,
that's what I'm
exactly.
like, every time he is the focus, it springs to life. And I think the problem is, and this is actually, it surprised me how much Sonic has in common with problems we've talked about with superhero movies. They make him so overpowered that they have to find ways to dull his powers or the movie would be over in 5 minutes. And because of that, the story is like awful.
Yep.
His power is to run, and he is sitting shotgun for at least 40 minutes of this movie.
Yeah, I had an issue with that. And like they're like, oh, I need you to drive me around because I don't know where I'm going.
Right.
Really?
Like, oh, I hit the ocean. All right, try again.
You ran to the Pacific Coast in 5 seconds and back. Go another direction then. You're bound to get there. Like,
just give him a map. And he can ask for directions once he gets there. He can run up the side of the building to get to
that was
his
my other thing.
point.
Oh, there's security. We got to take the elevator. No, you don't. No, you don't. Run up the side of the building, grab your stuff, and go. Like, you're fine.
Right, like they show him to be Quicksilver level. Like, they rip off X-Men Days of Future Past, which is fine because those sequences are good. I like those sequences. I thought those were kind of pretty cool action scenes. It is such a rip off of what Bryan Singer did with X-Men Days of Future Past.
I'm not even surprised, but yes.
But it's fine because like they're interesting sequences and they show just how kind of badass his power is, but they need to do things like tranquilize him with darts so he can only walk. Like, oh,
bit.
my legs are sore. Now I can't run. Like, oh, I'm sorry. And also, it's been proven he can read because all he does, this movie is reference central. Like, first 10 minutes, if you had the over-under for Don't Stop Me Now playing, you definitely hit the under. Because first 10 minutes, Don't Stop Me Now, he's reading Flash comics, excuse me. His favorite movie is Speed. He loves ping pong.
Fast and Furious.
Oh my God. Fast and Furious. He makes Fast and Furious references. Like, oh my God.
This is what bothers me about this type of kids movie is that a lot of its jokes are references to the real world and not what's actually going on in its movie. Detective Pikachu had Pokemon-centric jokes.
Right.
And Doolittle had, as bad as they were, the jokes were at least about what was going on in the movie. Here, it's all like, oh, do you recognize this thing that I'm talking about? Oh, it's this restaurant. This thing happening on real life. Like, that dates your movie, and it just seems like cheap, easy humor to me. Like, I can get that from SNL. I don't need you to give me pop culture references.
There's a point where Sonic references the Civil War, and I'm like what? How does he know what that is, and why are we talking about this right now?
That is true.
Like, if he can read the signs to get to San Francisco. Is my point. So, like, why are we doing? Like, the whole point is just to get him in the car with somebody else so that we can develop the emotional through lines, and that this movie wouldn't be over in 15 minutes.
Right.
Like, it's as simple as that. So they had no story to begin with. The script is bad. It's predictable. Is the point I'm getting to.
Oh yeah, if you paused it 20 minutes in and go, "Hey Jake, what do you think is going to happen?" I could have told you exactly what happened.
Right.
Very predictable.
And I'll say it's not a disaster. It's not. It's not nearly as bad as Doolittle. I just think it's mostly mediocre. It's middling, but it's the best I've got.
Yeah, and that lull tells me that we all kind of feel the same.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. So I think that lull is a hint to me that we need to get into our ratings and our spoiler section.
Yeah.
If you're joining us for the first time, the middle seats, we rate movies on the seat scale. If we think a movie has no flaws whatsoever, we give it a royal throne. If we think a movie is great but has minor flaws, we give it a plush recliner. If we think a movie is really good but has some pretty glaring flaws, we give it a wooden seat. The inverse of that, if we think a movie's not very good but has some pretty decent standouts, we give it a damp lawn chair. If a movie has no redeeming qualities whatsoever or is just generally very bad, we give it a sleazy outhouse. And if we think you should see it in theaters, we put the little bag of popcorn check mark next to it. So Nate, I know you started the conversation, so I'll go to Jake first for ratings.
For me, it's not a bad movie, so I'm going to give it a wooden seat, but it's a lower end wooden seat. Just because, like, there are definitely flaws. Like, I'm glad they changed his design, because his design is definitely better now. But it's very predictable. There's some glaring plot issues. James Marsden is Like they give him like there's a point where they have Sonic drive for no reason, so James Marsden can have a little action. Like there's just random things in there that I was rolling my eyes at.
That, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, why is Sonic now driving? So James Marsden can have more screen time? Yeah. So there's a lot of little things like that you kind of roll your eyes over, but as a whole, it's generally pretty entertaining. There's a nice little buddy thing here and there. I don't think James Marsden is bad. I think Ben Schwartz is good. Jim Carrey's good. It's overall, it's fine. It's fun. I'll probably forget about it until December when we start going over all the movies we saw at the end of the year, and I'll be like, oh, right, Sonic, that was okay. And that'll be it.
Nate, will you feel the same way?
I'm going to go a little down. I'm more of a damp launch here on this one. I just was not excited by anything the movie was throwing at me. And I know that I'm not the target demographic for this type of movie, like we talked about with Dolittle last podcast. But this movie felt like it really wasn't trying for a lot of it. The story was very basic, and the jokes were not very funny. Yeah, it just felt like trying to get the blue hedgehog on screen. And on that part, they succeeded.
Congratulations, you got Sonic in the Sonic movie. Yeah.
Yeah, Sonic as a character. They brought him to life. They made him a fun character for kids to watch. I think they did the same thing with Dr. Eggman. I do like Jim Carrey. He was definitely the redeeming quality of this movie for me. But everything else and how they strung it together, I just was so unsatisfied the entire time. I didn't really get anything out of this. You compare that again to Detective Pikachu, where they're also trying to build a world from scratch based off of nostalgia and the video games. And I thought that did such a better job because it was actually creative with how it went around things. Here, I think it played off every single cliche kids movie drive along I've ever seen. And you just put the Sonic branding on it. And I don't know, I wasn't really satisfied with that. If it was a little funnier, I might have been a little bit kinder to it. But as of now, I'm going to stick damp lawn chair.
Yeah, I think the Detective Pikachu one is a good comparison because it's a kind of a what to do and what not to do with these properties. I think these two movies, I mean, it's the bar's so low, but I think they're towards the upper echelon of video game movies.
Yeah.
But Detective Pikachu, for all the faults, for all the problems I had with the story, for the predictability, for the problems I had with the main character, that movie had an idea, and importantly, it had a soul. You know, it had some kind of ingenuity behind it. This movie comes close to having a soul, not just being a corporate product, but it never reaches it. I'm on the negative side with Nate. I'm going to give it a damp lawn chair. It's not like a totally awful damp lawn chair, but it's not like a good one either. Not that there's ever a good damp. It's an average damp lawn chair. The big thing for me that, like, last non-spoiler thing I want to talk about is getting to the soullessness product part of this. This movie has some of the most blatant product placement I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, and I hate when they do that.
I didn't think we could get to levels worse than Transformers, but there was literally a scene where the main characters are apartment hunting. And she turns the laptop so you can see the site and says, look at these places that I found on Zillow, all your apartment hunting needs, or whatever it was. And it's just like,
literally the Truman Show. If you buy this knife,
it's another Jim Carrey movie.
Jim Carrey movie, right?
Yeah.
And like to take it a step further, I've been dropping Olive Garden references recently,
and I'm kind of tight about it because I hated all that.
James Marsden turns to the camera basically, and he's like, "Oh, honey, you know who loves Olive Garden? Because when you're there, you're family." Like
yeah,
that's just the slogan. That's just the slogan. Like, what are we doing?
If this movie had a gut, I would have punched it in the gut. I was like, cut that out. Stop it.
Mm-hmm. Right, and that is just a microcosm of the problem which is that it's just a soulless, acceptable, fine blockbuster for kids. Did the design make a difference? Probably, like a little bit. I think I would have been a little lower. But at the other hand, I think we would have gotten used to it eventually. Like, we would have been annoyed at the beginning, and then we would have gotten used to the design as it went along.
You're probably right.
And the problems would still remain. So I don't know how much it would have pushed the needle. We're going to see a second one. I think they could do some creative things in a second one, but for now, damp lawn chair.
Let's see some world building.
Yeah. And we'll talk about some of the elements they set up for world building in our spoiler section. If you have not seen Sonic the Hedgehog, duck out now. If you have seen it, come join us in spoilers.
Whoa!
Oh, spoiler alert.
Spoiler! Spoiler!
Excuse me, spoiler alert.
So do you guys want to start at the beginning or the end, or because there's a thing at the beginning I want to talk about. Do I have the floor? Are you okay with me?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
The is up with that owl? Like,
very random.
First of all, I'll go to the video game expert, or closer to a video game expert. Is Longclaw like a character, like in the games? Because I don't.
As far
remember.
as I know, no.
Right.
I haven't played many of the 3D more current ones. Like, I think the last one I played was Sonic Heroes back before the Wii was big, you know? So, as far as I know, Longclaw is not a character.
Right.
We saw, like, those Knuckles-esque echidna things that were attacking Sonic and the Owl, but...
Right. And did everybody stay to the mid-credits?
Yes.
Yeah, Tails.
See my friend Tails?
Yeah, so Tails is back, and that, I think, was to be expected.
Yeah, I think Knuckles will be back, too, eventually. And then there's Shadow, too, who's anti-Sonic.
Yeah, I did see funny internet memes on Reddit and Twitter and the like of, like, what did Tails look like before the redesigns, if they were playing.
Yeah.
That's true.
They were brutal.
Yeah.
But
That's
like,
funny.
so we start on, like I said, on Sonic's home planet, which is basically just a track for him.
Yeah.
And then, like, this owl's, like, his, like, kind of mother. I like, it's not clear to me what she is. She's, like, a surrogate mother.
But, like, also annoyed by him.
Right, but also annoyed by him, and she looks like she's from the Owls of Ga'Hoole.
Yep.
And, like, it looks like we dropped right into that Zack Snyder movie. And then he escapes, it's implied she dies, and then he never brings her up again. Not once. Like, there's no, like, force vision of Longclaw where he's like, I don't know what to do, and Longclaw's like, use the power, not the force.
The rings.
Use the rings, right. But, like, never brought up again. Ever.
He could have easily brought that up in that really cliche scene where Sonic and Sheriff Tom have that falling out about, like, how could you leave Green Hills?
That pissed me off. He was like,
oh my God,
tell me your
that was
dreams,
the worst.
buddy. Tell me what's on your mind. Oh, your dream. What is that? Like, dude.
That pissed me off too. I'm like, that's generally like not a good message to send kids. Like, it's okay to leave your hometown and follow your dreams. Don't bash that. There's nothing wrong with that.
And especially because they double back on it at the end of the movie too. Yeah.
Yeah. That actually made me a little mad. I'm like, yo, not a good message, movie.
That's what I'm talking about, why Ben Schwartz's work is so valuable, because Sonic is constantly causing problems for everyone in his life. Like, he starts so much stuff at that bar that, like...
Yeah, can we talk about that?
Go ahead. You go for it.
Yeah,
Please.
So we were briefly... Before we dove in to the discussion, off mic, we were a little bit laughing about this scene, just intermittently. He's sitting at a bar, like on a bar stool with hat, glasses, and like poncho kind of thing.
Yeah, he's dressed like Clint Eastwood in like Good, Bad, and the Ugly, right?
Yeah, and that's just everybody at the bar kind of accepts it. And like I don't care how drunk I am. If I'm seeing something with blue fur and a sombrero sitting at a bar, I'm gonna be like, you know, that's weird.
Yeah. Like
I'm gonna address that. Like
later in the movie, when they need to get to the top of the tower because Sonic dropped his rings because Sheriff Tom shot him.
Yeah, whatever.
Like the whole idea, you were talking about him having to run up the side of the building earlier. They put him in a bag instead, and like this, I actually thought it was a pretty funny joke. Sheriff Tom's like, these two people like hear Sonic struggling in the bag, and he's like, oh no, it's my kid. It's not my kid. You know, like kidnapping joke. But nobody calls the police after that. So I'm like, no one? Okay.
Yeah, and they let him up because he's a cop. But I'm glad she said, you're from Montana? Yeah, I came here. That's how serious it is. Shut up. That's not funny. It's just stupid. That's like you wrote the script once and didn't edit it at all. Like
that didn't bother me as much as the bar scene. Like I don't think I needed that.
it's just a systematic problem across the whole movie, in my opinion. But I mean, the bar scene does lead up to a pretty, like I said, complete ripoff of Days of Future Past, but pretty cool action moment where he slows down time and moves things around.
Yeah, I guess that part was fine, but I feel like we could have gotten that scene out of any circumstance.
Yeah, but a little more organically too. Like they stopped to like build a friendship and awkwardly at a bar while he's sitting there and like trying to be in disguise, but obviously not in a good disguise at all. And I was like, this could be done better.
They also needed to establish he could do that if they were going to do it later, because we would have been like, well, he could do that the whole time? I mean, we're still saying that, but like...
Yeah, but that's still a problem for the movie.
Yeah, I just found myself struggling to care, and maybe that's just me being a cynical old grouchy man in a kids movie, but I just didn't find myself resonating with that.
Nate, I didn't care, and then Sonic flossed, and then I cared.
Christ.
So that was the tipping point. You want to date your movie, put flossing or like whipping and nay-naying in it. Like 10 years from now, people are going to be like, what is he doing? Like, they won't understand. That's why I don't think modern references equals humor.
Mm-hmm. They did have one Sonic meme joke in where I think it's like Sonic, where it's a very badly drawn hedgehog. And that's just a popular meme online. And like that kind of reference is fine because it's about the source material. But all the other stuff that we were talking about earlier in this podcast.
Oh, you know what? You know what mindless humor issue I had? Why does James Marsden's wife's
sister-in-law hate
him so much?
Yeah.
Like at the end, I get it. They stole her car, broke into her home with this alien. If she hated him after that, I get it. Before that, she openly, to his face, hates him for absolutely no reason. And I'm like, is that supposed to be funny? Because it's just weird and random. It doesn't make any sense. Why?
Yeah.
She's like whispering divorce in both of their ears. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. And there's no lead up to that.
Jake, I was getting there. You just threw him in the alley-oop. That actress, I mean, I'm sure she's fine in other things, but she stunk here. Like, every time she was part of anything going on.
Mm-hmm. It was the same thing. I've always told you I hated him.
I feels like that entire sequence is designed just so that the little girl can give Sonic new shoes. Like, doesn't it feel like that's the...
Yep.
That plus, like, oh, Sonic's hurt. Tika Sumpter, she's a vet. She can fix him. This alien she's never seen before in her life. Sure.
Right.
All right, cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was going to be my next thing. Where that
generally did annoy me. I'm like, this is stupid. All right, Jim Carrey, before we wrap up.
Yeah, Jim Carrey was fun. I thought his banter was particularly good. I think what he did with James Marsden at the beginning of the movie, trying to get into the house, that back and forth was really fun. I thought their rivalry was overall just fun.
I actually felt that way too. Yeah, I kind of like that.
Yeah. I like the scene where he's just like by himself and just like dancing. I thought that was pretty like pure joy. Like he asked to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's probably in his contract at this point. You need to give him a scene to just mess around and do whatever he feels like doing.
Right.
Because it's just who he is, and he's great at it.
He's probably one of the most animated actors we have. Like,
he's
just
a cartoon
the way he
brought to
moves
life.
is... Yeah, exactly. The mask was perfect for him.
I will always have a soft spot for him.
Mm-hmm.
He was like one of the first people as a kid I knew who he was and like really loved as an actor as like a child.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, he did a great job as Robotnik. His back and forth with most of the characters worked. The only relationship actually that didn't really strike me as awesome was him and Sonic. You could actually like feel the hatred between him and the sheriff character, but him and Sonic just felt like a contractual thing, if that makes sense. You know, the chemistry wasn't there.
Yeah, like it was his job.
They didn't have time to develop it either. Yeah, like
the movie had to go too fast.
Yeah, exactly.
But also it was a blessing because it was an hour 40. Not even.
Say.
So,
one last thing before we move into our final thoughts here. Did not expect the Olive Garden gag to come back at the end. Kind of caught me off guard. I chuckled a little at the fact that the government's big hush thing was like a $50 gift card to Olive Garden. Nothing?
No, that annoyed me too because I didn't like the Olive Garden bit in the beginning, so that they came back with it, I was like, really?
See,
I thought we were done.
It was so groan-worthy that it almost came back to being funny again.
You know, if that was the only instance of product placement, that would have been fun because that would have been, what's the term? Lighting the lantern? Hanging the lantern?
Hanging
the lantern. Like, just drawing attention to it makes it funny. And if that's the only time they did it with Olive Garden, I might have said something. But the fact that we had 3 other Olive Garden references in this movie, we didn't need that.
Yeah.
Or we should have only had the gag at the end and not the 2 in the middle of the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what it's comparable to? The hanging the lantern thing? In the first Iron Man, where he's just like, I want Burger King. And then they just go to Burger King. Like, oh man.
That was good.
I mean,
right,
yeah,
that was
he was
good.
hungry, sure.
And it was a one-time thing, yeah.
Little weird that he's a billionaire and he wants like a cheeseburger from Burger King.
Yeah, but you know what? You've been in a cave, you want what you want. I get
whatever.
that. The fact that he was like, oh, the only other app on my phone is the Olive Garden app. When you're there, your family. Oh my God. Vomit. I didn't even like Olive Garden.
All right, guys, final thoughts on Sonic the Hedgehog here. Nate Lungarini, final thoughts.
This movie lacked the soul. It brought the character from the Sonic video games, but didn't bring much else from it. And on that front, I'm glad that they just stuck with Sonic. You maybe could have brought Tails along, and that's why we got the post-credit zinger of him. So they at least brought Sonic and Robotnik's relationship into the mix, but that was about it. You know, this wasn't a chase movie. This could have been like Mad Max, but in a child form, you know, where the whole thing is just a chase scene. And we didn't get that. We got samey CGI person in the front seat of a car talking to a human actor, and that was the movie. And we've seen that a million times from a million other places, and better than this. This was pretty run-of-the-mill and kind of disappointing for what potential this could have had for video game movies.
You know what kind of stinks is that they tease what a chase movie would have looked like when he's throwing the rings and going to different parts of the world in that final action scene. Like, that could have been cool if they expanded on that more, but at the same time, right, he had to sit in a Toyota the whole movie, so whatever.
Oh, more product placement. Ugh.
Yeah.
I agree. I liked him, like, running through the Great Wall and the pyramids. I'm like, that's actually really cool. But right, expand on that then. That's the cool stuff. So, yeah, I guess if we're just going to keep myself going. Final thoughts. I think the length is really important because it's under an hour 40, and I think I was entertained for as long as it was, which is important. Despite the plot holes and, you know, not really great writing. Liked Sonic and Jim Carrey, and I thought James Marsden was fine, and it was entertaining enough where I just thought it was a mildly fun time at the movies, and then that's about it. So there weren't any overly glaring stuff. I know I was more negative in the discussion, but generally I overall was fine and had a decently fun time. So I guess that's where I stand on a low end wooden seat. But yeah, I think if like anything else had gone wrong with this movie, I might have teetered elsewhere. But overall, I thought it was just fine. It was decent. I'm hoping the year gets better for movies.
Yeah, and given what's out right now, it is one of the better options. Oh man, I've seen 23 movies so far this year, and about 3 or 4 of them would have probably made my bottom 5 last year. That's how rough it's been out there. It's like a post-apocalyptic wasteland at the theater right now, and this is a slight beam of hope, which is not saying a lot considering I gave that our second lowest rating. It's like I said, your kids are going to love it. I can see kids like 10, 15 years from now showing their kids being like, oh my God, you got to watch this movie that I was obsessed with when I was growing up. You know, like how we have nostalgic feeling for movies that weren't great, like Good Burger or like Big Fat Liar. Like, that's going to be what
Good
this
Burger
is. Good
Burger's a masterpiece. I don't know what you're talking about.
Watch it again. Anyway, the point is, kids are going to have nostalgic feelings towards this movie specifically, and parents are going to be like, all right, well, it kept them quiet for 110 minutes or whatever. 100 minutes, actually. Jake's right. The length is very important. If this was any longer, we might have been a little harsher. I can't in good conscience recommend this movie, but if you put it on HBO or something, it won't kill you, pretty much, is how I feel about it.
Detective Pikachu right now on HBO.
True. Yeah. And let's end it there. That kind of undid every good thing I tried to say. That'll do it for this episode of the Middle Seats podcast. Before we go, Nate Lungarini, where can they find us on the internet?
Alrighty, here's how you can get in touch with us. Please like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Middle Seats. You can also listen to us on the go on all your podcast platforms, including SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. For questions, comments, and updates on the show, keep an eye on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at The Middle Seats. And if you like what you hear and you want to see more content, let us know and spread the word.
Obviously, with the Oscars having been passed already, we didn't really even talk about what we thought of the
we didn't get that chance.
But yay, Parasite. We talk about Parasite a lot on our favorite movies of 2019. If you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to that. We will have some more episodes coming soon. That'll do it for us. For Nate Lungarini and Jake Hensler, I'm Andrew Auger. Keep that seat warm, everyone. We'll be back soon.